1834. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks for being on. So of the options that we just talked about and laid out here, what do you see, if any, of being the most realistic, something that Congress could do this summer, this month, over the next few months about what happened in Helsinki?
Well, first, doing nothing is not an option to protect the ballot box. I think this
But wait
week
a second, it is an option. Congress could do nothing. That's also an option on the table.
You're absolutely right. But if we want to have a secure election, that's not acceptable to the American people. Just this week, the Appropriations Committee on the Republican side zeroed out the election security budget. So we had about $330 million budgeted for election security, and they took that out of the budget. So we have a vote this week to put that back in. So pass those appropriations. Protect the Mueller investigation. Show the Russians that we're serious about this. We're not going to let the president insult that investigation at this conference and then see it undermined here. The Senate has already passed out of the Senate Judiciary bipartisan legislation to do that. Also, Hallie, we can pass the independent commission resolution that Elijah Cummings and I worked on. It has bipartisan support as well. Take this out of a politically charged environment that is Congress. Put it in the hands of elders and experts like your former guest, your past guest, Michael Chertoff.
Right.
Those type of people, put them on the commission and make reforms. So
one of the things that Senator Cornyn just talked about, we just caught him on camera right during, I think, break there, and he was talking about wanting to see something that stings. Now, respectfully, it's a pleasure having you on the show. You are a member of the Democratic minority in Congress. It's really up to Republican leadership, of which Senator Cornyn is a part of. Let me play for you what he had to say about what he would want to see.
Is the Senate going to act on any of these things in the wake of this summit?
Well, I've heard some people talk about maybe a sense of the Senate resolution supporting the intelligence community, which I know we do, I do. But I think the more effective thing would be to consider additional sanctions against Russia. Something that stings would be more appropriate than just something that is a messaging resolution.
In your view, Congressman, is there an appetite for something like that in talking with your Republican colleagues in the House?
No, I see an appetite to just, send out a tweet, put out a "I'm very disappointed" statement, but not to actually use the vote that we have. I actually agree with the senator there. A censure motion or, just kind of condemning the president or supporting the intelligence community, that does nothing. We actually need to do something that has teeth to either defend us here, devote resources to the ballot box, or that deters Russia. Both of those should be taken up immediately. But just to tell you where we are, to just frame where we are right now, yesterday Democrats tried to have the House vote on Paul Ryan's press release just to see if there was even common ground for them to vote on a resolution word for word of what Paul Ryan said standing up for the Intelligence Committee. They wouldn't put that up for a vote. So that's why I think we actually shouldn't try and do this any further. We should do something that actually can make a difference, because the Republicans aren't interested in just doing the bare minimum. So we should really reach for what can have the most substantive difference to protect the ballot box.
It would be useful to perhaps hear from the U.S. interpreter who was in the room during this meeting. I think we have a new photo of her, by the way. She was in the room for other meetings as well. You can see her there. We've highlighted. There is at least one member of Congress who wants to see her come in front of members of lawmakers to answer questions about what exactly went down in that one-on-one. I've heard that's kind of unlikely. What do you make of that?
Well, it's necessary. And, as a former prosecutor, this president has priors. He has a prior history of giving national security information to the Russians in a closed environment. He did that with the foreign minister and the ambassador in the Oval Office. I think the Intelligence Committee should interview the interpreter to find out if national security information was given. Are some of our secrets and sources and methods compromised because of that conversation? That is a legitimate national security concern with this president.
Before I let you go, and just to clarify, too, that picture, April of last year, the interpreter in the room for a separate meeting. Obviously, we don't have photos now of the president's one-on-one with Putin. But just to touch on somebody else who's now getting involved in all this, Congressman, a very familiar name to a lot of our viewers, James Comey. I don't know if you saw his tweet this morning, but he writes that all who believe in this country's values must vote for Democrats this fall. Do you worry, given how polarizing James Comey is, that is something that could backfire?
Well, no, he's a Republican, and I think his message is that the country right now sees this president as a wrecking ball to all of our freedoms and all of our values, and the Republicans are completely unwilling to push the red button that will stop that wrecking ball. Elect Democrats who will. That is our only choice forward right now, unless the Republicans are willing to stand up for our country.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you very much for joining
My
us on the
pleasure.
show.